the Arabian Racehorse Podcast with Debbie Burt and Stephen Molyneux.
Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Arabian Racing Podcast. I'm joined by Stephen Molyneux from Dubai. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Yeah, very well. How are you? How's things out there?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. All good.
Yeah, probably markedly warmer than it is here. I've had to get the jumpers back out this week, so sorry.
I think the temperature dial's gone up since the 7 days and since we last spoke. Certainly, this time of year, it's quite noticeable how hot it gets.
Yeah, well, you're rather lucky, I think, at the moment. It's we plummeted about 10 degrees today from yesterday. So anyway, hopefully it'll buck up for our race next week, and of course, obviously for Epsom at the weekend for those following the thoroughbred racing. And of course, the Queen's Jubilee. But anyway, moving on to the race that we had at Wolverhampton. That gave a first win for a new owner, Gary Alsop, who you're probably more familiar with out in Dubai.
Yeah, he's been a big part of the EERC, Emirates Entertainment Racing Club, for a while, I believe, just in Bern, and he have had a good few horses together, including some good horses. I think Gary owns Felix, who ran third or fourth in the Dubai Turf a year or so ago, and he's quite a high-end horse. So for him to be involved in Arabians as well is very good, and he was clearly delighted at his first winner in this sphere with Balkis running out a determined winner, I thought, at the expense of a Clear Lath Bar. And I think they've got high enough hopes for this horse, including potentially bringing him to Dubai at the end of the current ARO season.
Oh, absolutely delighted. I mean, just to be here is fantastic, but having a winner at the end and picking a trophy, our first ever trophy. We were involved in other horses. We were involved in Cachet at 1,000 Guineas 3 weeks ago, so it was a dream for us. But this, for us, is very special.
Yes, she certainly put up a good performance. I think probably Clear Lath Bar got caught a little bit flat-footed when the tempo quickened. What do you think of her chances moving forward for the rest of the season? I know Phil was thinking of, she's 4 years old. There's a chance she might be a possible Derby candidate.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I read the race. And there was perhaps a telling look behind by Pat Cosgrove, the jockey on Clear Lath Bar, around about 2 or 3 furlongs out. I'm sure he felt that he had all bases covered at that point. And it was just a touch of maturity, perhaps, or lack of maturity that found Clear Lath Bar out in the end. Balkis has had that couple more starts, and she was a bit more streetwise on the day, and perhaps as well Clear Lath Bar is going to benefit from stepping up in trip. She was having just her second start. She'd run in Belgium earlier in the year. Form has actually worked out pretty well. The horse that beat her on that occasion, Ikefta Bazoul, has gone on to be rated higher in France. So I think that gives a fair line as to what Clear Lath Bar could be worth going forward, and hopefully she can progress into that sort of level. Obviously, we know when the Derby's concerned that whatever the French bring over, they are very hard to beat. But Clear Lath Bar is certainly got the potential to rate higher than her initial mark. But it was a case of Balkis just being that bit readier at Wolverhampton, and James Owen gets some very fit first time. But that's not to say that Balkis can't progress either as well. I don't think she was having just her second start, I think it was, for James Owen. She bumped into probably quite a useful sort in AJS Hajjaj when beaten in handicap company at Wolverhampton last year, and hence why her mark went up on the back of that victory at Wolverhampton last week.
Yeah, and are the others down the field? What did you make of them?
Alma Buba, she's becoming a little bit frustrating, or she has become firmly frustrating, perhaps, whichever way you look at it. She obviously set the pace, and she was there to be shot at. I think she is going to prove vulnerable in most maidens, but James Owen at least has the opportunity of dropping back into handicap company with her. She's eligible for 0 to 70s now on the back of that running maiden company. I'm not totally convinced she's the most willing in the world, but she again put up a fair sight from the front. Cafu Athbar back in fourth. Obviously, a 3-year-old was always going to find it a little bit tricky, and will no doubt improve quite a good deal for the run. Fitness-wise, probably Satan was always going to improve more than most, given that he'd been off the track for a good while. Was also carrying a top weight of 10 stone. So again, probably better opportunities for that one in handicaps now, having dropped a good deal in the weights since we saw him in 2020. Labois, as we'll talk about with Brighton upcoming, is obviously eligible for lower grade handicaps, was probably just a bit out of its depth in that maiden race. And Al Ghazal, who failed to beat a rival home, pedigree-wise at least, is entitled to do better and probably just needed the experience a bit more than most. So, yeah, a good race in terms of the first two, and the fact they pulled clear of the rest was probably expected beforehand, but they are, useful performers at this level.
And as you say, they're going to progress into further up throughout the season, obviously. If we look forward now to our next race, which is at Brighton on Tuesday. It's a 0 to 55 handicap sponsored by the Wasper Stallions Cup, and it's over 6 furlongs, but it's a few yards shy of actually 7 furlongs. What did you make of the declarations?
Yeah, it looks a good competitive little race. We've got 7 that have held their ground from the initial 8. So again, a good field size, a nice mix of lightly raced horses who can improve for their second seasons. A couple of horses returning from lengthy absences, and obviously 1 or 2 that have already had a run this campaign as well, just to give them perhaps an extra edge on the day. So I know 0 to 55, we are dealing with a lower grade of racing within ARO, but no, I thought it was an interesting little race, and good to see that these handicaps are attracting a reasonable field size. I would say 7 is a pretty good number, I think.
Well, considering the small field sizes we're having at the moment in thoroughbred racing in this country, I think it stands up pretty well, actually. But anyway, going back to horses returning off an absence, it's a bit of a shame in a way that this is Conker's first start for the best part of 2.5 years, because the race is tailor-made for him in some respects. He's proven on, he's run well at the course before. He's both his wins came at Chepstow, which is a similarly undulating track, and he likes quick ground, and he's off a mark he's won off before. But I mean, we've seen with James's horses in the first 2 races, they are either rake fit or there's room to work on. So I think we'll have to see what the horse looks like in the paddock, really, for that one.
Yeah, it will be a good sign. Obviously, fairly limited opportunities for these horses going forward. You'd imagine he might be in the category of being fairly ready to go for this race. As you said there, everything is really very much in its favour. Most of these are going to struggle, you would feel, certainly on paper at least, with the 7 furlongs. The next race for this sort of grade of horse is at Bath towards the end of July. So it really does look a very good opportunity to get Conker very fit and very ready for this first assignment. Like you say, he's very well handicapped. He was consistent when we last saw him. He is one of the few in the race who isn't going to mind 7 furlongs on what is hopefully fast ground. He should also go forward as well. He's the likeliest leader in the race, and there was a meeting at Brighton towards the end of last week, and pretty much, well, a good percentage of the winners on that card, they got to that favoured far rail and largely stayed in front. So I think going forward is usually an advantage, and that should play to the strengths of Conker. It's just a case of how fit he is going to be after that 2-year absence.
Sure. And of course, one horse which isn't going to lack for fitness is Bin Al-Ree, who's obviously had the recent run 2 weeks ago at Windsor. Pete Hammersley, his trainer, sent us a little message about both Bin Al-Ree and Belle Angelique, his other runner. We can hear that now.
Good morning, Debbie. We run Bin Al-Ree and Belle Angelique at Brighton on Tuesday. Binny has come out of his Windsor race well. I was pleased that the gelding has had the desired effect, and he showed a lot more focus in his race. He should be there or thereabouts on Tuesday. Belle Angelique had her problems last year and probably wasn't 100% for her 2 runs. She's a lot fitter now, and we're hoping for a better showing at Brighton. Paddy Barlow will ride her. He rode her in both the runs last year, and he rides her at home. So fingers crossed.
So, he thinks Bin Al-Ree is going to be there or thereabouts. And I think that's a fair assessment, wouldn't you?
Yeah, look, it's an obvious chance for him. He obviously won first time out The horse won first time out last year, Bin Al-Ree, but probably came up against two good horses, as we remarked at the time, in that Windsor race on reappearance this time around. Rebel Athbar, who won the race, is likely to keep progressing, as indeed, the second sets a very solid standard. So Bin Al-Ree, he lost absolutely nothing in defeat in that race. He was sticking on at the end, as though the race would maybe sharpen him up a bit more this time, compared to 12 months ago, where he did win at Bath, reappearing. I suppose the drop to 7 furlongs on what is a faster track than Windsor is not necessarily ideal, but he's certainly got more going for him than most in this race. He's had that run, and this is definitely easier than the Windsor contest.
And we've also, bearing in mind that this is the Wafba Stallion series is intentionally to support the grassroots of the sport. It's nice to see two amateurs taking a ride in this, and of course Charlie Price, who was one of our leading novices and has since turned conditional. Yeah,
exactly. A couple of amateurs who can claim the £7 as well, and yeah, good opportunity for one or two of these. It can be a plus to have the more experienced riders on board, but still good to see that our trainers do stick with people who likely do a lot of the work in the background prior to race day.
Sure, and especially in the case of Belle Angelique, where Paddy, he's a student at Nottingham Veterinary School, and he's been going into Pete's to ride out. And he actually he rode a winner under rules in Italy in the last week. So well done, Paddy, for that. Lewis Saunders is like Charlie Price, attached to Tim Vaughan, and he's been, I think, into Steve's to ride a couple of times, and he actually rode aloof for Steve last year at Wolverhampton. I think probably Steve has made a wise decision to put Charlie Price on aloof as a horse that, on her first time back, she's probably going to want some clear instructions facing Brighton's undulations.
Yeah, it's not an easy track, is it, for maybe the inexperienced jockeys and inexperienced horses, which some of these still are, aloof being one of them. Only her first season of racing last year. She did have a fairly full campaign racing the 5 times, and her dam did improve with racing over this sort of trip. So, aloof is one of a couple that could improve. Belle Angelique, another. She is a 6-year-old, but she had just the 2 starts last season herself. So that, one or two of these, like I say, are likely to take a big step up now that they're in their right grade.
And one horse who's possibly been a little bit disappointing, but interesting to see the addition of first-time blinkers, is down the bottom, Gurko de Tournelle.
Yeah, faced the odd stiff assignment last or through his career, but got a good jockey on board in Thomas Greatrex. Never really threatened to win a race. I think Matt finished 4th on one occasion, but was still fairly well beaten. But yeah, off the basement mark of 34, we'll be carrying bottom weight of 8 stone 11. Could just be a horse again that improves for a bit more time and experience.
And so after Brighton, we'll be moving on to Doncaster. I'm afraid I'm going to be at Epsom. I won't be there, but it's our most highest rated race so far of the season, a 0 to 95 handicap. So we'll look forward to reviewing the Brighton race and looking ahead to the race at Doncaster next time. Yeah,
should be a good race at Doncaster, clashing, of course, with the Derby Day, which comes around quickly every year, but looks like being another very good day. And I'm sure it'll be a huge crowd at Doncaster on the Saturday night as well.
And we have some urgent news just in from Paul Simmons at Zayn Arabian Stud. Sadly, he lost one of his mares this morning and is looking for a foster mare to look after the colt foal, who's sadly been left without his mother. The number's on the screen. Please call if you can help. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your time, Stephen.
No problem, Debbie.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.